How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your August 2019 horoscope for Aquarius, Sun, and Rising. Thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. We are ending July and starting August off with the new moon in Leo and Mercury finally stationing direct after its really long retrograde. Now, with Mars and Venus and the Sun all still in Leo right now, there's still this energy of, being in the light, being seen, and this is all in your 7th house of relationships, of individual relationships, not just, romantic, but, professional as well. And so with this new moon in Leo ending July off, I think that this is going to be a good time for you guys to kind of reset your energy, kind of recharge your batteries when it comes to what relationships have been brought up to in the past, especially with Mercury retrograding in your 7th house of relationships. Now, as we move forward on August 1st, that is when Mercury's finally stationing direct, and this is happening in Cancer in your 6th house. Now, Mercury, the planet of communication and, expression of that, our mindset, what we're thinking, is still in the sign of Cancer, where it's still focused on, where does it need to trust, what matters the most, what is of necessity, what is of sentimental value. And as Mercury goes direct in Cancer, this is when Mercury can start actually focusing on the things that do matter and the things that are important. And this is in the 6th house. This is of your everyday routine. This is of your habits, your employment. Like, you go to work every single day. What does that look like? What does your plan look like? Your planner look like? What does your health look like? And with Mercury stationing direct in Cancer, this is when you can kind of focus on those things in order to kind of clear out that 6th house area that you've had so, intensified the past couple weeks. Then as we jump ahead about 10 days later on August 11th, that's when Mercury goes back into Leo. Now, with Mercury retrograding in Leo, you might have had miscommunications or problems within the context of relationships, but now that Mercury is going back into Leo, this is the time to, have the conversations that need to be had. This is the time to have better expression of yourself. And with Mercury being in Leo too, the big thing is that this isn't always about, saying everything out loud and for the world to hear. It's not about roaring at the top, at the top of your lungs just because you can. It's about knowing when to say something when it's appropriate and also knowing not when to say something when it's appropriate. And the big thing is that this is in your 7th house, so this isn't always about you. This can be other people coming to you, and maybe this Mercury retrograde was, someone else having miscommunication problems with you, maybe saying something wrong. And with Mercury going back into Leo, this is when the tone of voice really changes to something that's more integral, something that's more authentic, and something that's really coming out of a loyal and grounded place. Also on August 11th, that is when Jupiter finally stations direct in Sagittarius. Now, with Jupiter being in Sagittarius, it's been, creating all of this room for opportunities to happen, but as it's been retrograde, it's been having you think philosophically, having you ask the right questions about what do you believe about this stuff, what do you want to grow into. And now as Jupiter finally stations direct, this is where opportunities will start to present themselves. This is when, things are actually going to start picking up a little bit more, good things happening out of nowhere. That's kind of Jupiter's thing. And this is in your 11th house of friends, of social groups, of networks, and people that you're connected to on a bigger level. And so with Jupiter finally stationing direct, this could be a great time to reach out to networks, reach out to clubs and friends and things like that, because you may be presented opportunities coming from that sphere. Now on August 14th, that is when we have Venus conjoining the Sun in Leo, and this is pretty important because as Venus has been in Leo, and Venus is the planet of love, relationships, value, connecting, bringing things together, indulgence, she's been in the sign of Leo where, she's being put in the spotlight. She's wanting to seek validation and have the attention and being shown for what she can do. And as Venus conjoins the Sun in Leo, this is kind of like Venus getting purified by fire and getting charged up on, what Venus can feel, what she can do, what she's valuable of and capable of doing. And as this is in your 7th house, you may find yourself, being more connected to relationships that are in your life and finding more of the value in your one-on-one relationships. And that can be both in the romantic setting, like just friends or professional or whatever it is. But individual relationships will be really important. You're going to start seeing a lot more of the value of the characters that really come out of that area. Then on August 15th, that's when we have the full moon in Aquarius, and this is your full moon where the Sun is in Leo, highlighting the relationships that you have in your life. This moon going into your 1st house and being lit up is kind of showing you more about you. And while the Sun's in Leo, this can be showing, prominent people that are kind of like inspiring you to do things in your life. this moon in Aquarius is asking you to kind of like, hey, where can you better connect yourself to the individuals that you have in your life that are going to present, not only you with better opportunities, but going to show more of who you are, and and really connect you to the things that that you're good at, that you can really show your own Leo side too. And also on August 15th, that is when we have Mercury finally leaving its shadow, and now everything that Mercury retrograde brought up can finally get wrapped up, and Mercury can finally start treading new territory in Leo. And again, this is Mercury in Leo. This is about, being able to speak courageously and boldly, but knowing when to say something and when it's appropriate. And now that Mercury's finally moving out of shadow, this is about, having more of that authentic and truthful and loyal communication with the relationships that you have in your life. Then on August 18th, that is when we have Mars entering Virgo, and by the time we get to the end of this month, everything's going to basically be in Virgo, like all of the personal planets, and that means everything's going into your 8th house, which is kind of a weird area. The 8th house is symbolic of death, of taxes, other people's money, other people's possessions, what other people have that you may not see. The 8th house is hidden things, is taboo things, is of secrets. And as we have Mars, the planet of our action and our energy and our drive and our intentions and what we're doing, is going into the sign of Virgo, where it can focus more on the details and the specifics. Entering your 8th house looks like you being more occupied with the 8th house tasks of dealing with other people's problems, dealing with things that you didn't foresee in the future. Now, Mars is a malefic planet where it severs, it cuts, it heats up, it stings, and it pierces, so you can feel a little bit overwhelmed and frustrated with all the minuscule tasks that are coming about that you maybe did not see beforehand. But what's important to know is that while Mars is in Virgo, you have the energy to do it, although you might be a little annoyed and frustrated doing it. Then on August 21st, that's when Venus enters Virgo, and this changes the flavor a little bit, because Venus, the planet of love, relationships, value, wanting to have a good time, is going into her sign of fall, where it's kind of difficult for her to enjoy her experience. Venus in Virgo still focuses on the details, still focuses on the specifics, and brings value to them and beautifies them. But Venus can get kind of overwhelmed with the details and kind of getting too carried away with the details that she's not really having the fun that she wants. And I think that that's going to really change the flavor of this whole Virgo transit or Virgo season that we're going through. And now with Venus entering your 8th house, this is again bringing value in this area and showing you what matters here. But while Venus is in Virgo, this is attention to the details. This is looking at the specifics. And Venus is in her fall. This isn't going to be the most comfortable ride ever, but I think a big challenge is to actually enjoy this process while you're going through it. And then on August 23rd, that's when we have the Sun enter Virgo, and Virgo season officially begins. This is when the main luminary, the light, is going from its home sign of Leo and going into Virgo, where it's bringing more light and emphasis into your 8th house. Now, again, the 8th house is a really weird area. It deals with a lot of different things. A lot of things are hidden. A lot of things are kind of touchy subjects. And while the Sun's right here, this is when a lot of your focus and a lot of the attention ends up going into that area. But then on August 24th, that is when we have Venus conjoining Mars in Virgo. And I bring this up because while Mars in Virgo can be a little bit frustrated and annoyed with all of the minuscule tasks that it has to accomplish, Venus in Virgo also is annoyed and frustrated with these things, but it's kind of like Mars has the ability and the energy to do those things that Venus doesn't want to do right now. And Venus conjoining Mars is like, hey, if you're going to spend your time focusing on these smaller details, these things that can kind of get in the way, these annoying things that you want to, go and take head on, Venus is saying, enjoy the process. This is also the 8th house. This is the house of change. This is a mutable sign. Mutable signs represent change. And so while Venus and Mars are conjoining in Virgo, I think this is a big time to realize what specifics can you do in order to, change isn't overnight. You don't just do a 180. You go 1 degree at a time. And I think while Venus and Mars are conjoining, this is about focusing on 1 degree at a time and sitting down with that degree and enjoying it as much as you can. But then on August 29th, that's when we have Mercury enter Virgo, and this is when things become a little bit more clear because Mercury rules the sign Virgo. That's its home sign where it can operate at its most efficient and its most effective. Now, Mercury, the planet of communication, of messages, of our mindset, the way that we think, the way that we're speaking, going into its home sign is positive because now we get to, have a clear sense of idea of what's going on and use a little bit more logic and reason and rationale into whatever we're, diving into. But as Mercury enters your 8th house, this is when your mind and everything else is going to get wrapped up into all of this stuff. But the good news is Mercury's going to help you like delegate it, organize it, get it detailed to where it's understandable and legible. And so while Mercury does enter Virgo, this is when all of that Virgo 8th house stuff will start to actually get a little bit more lined up and clear. But then on August 30th, we end the month with the new moon in Virgo. And like I said, we'll now have the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars all in your 8th house, all in Virgo. A lot of attentions right here. And one thing that's important to hit is that this stuff, all this Virgo stuff will be trining Uranus. It will be trining Saturn. There's a lot of progressive energy right here, a lot of constructive energy to help you build and to help you, solidify things. But this new moon is going to be a good time to look at your shared resources with other people. That's what the 8th house is. It's other people's stuff. It's like investments and what other people own and possess. And while this new moon's happening, this is a good time to really look at, where your investments are with other people. What are other people investing into you? And how can you be more specific? How can you be more detailed and more clear on your plan of action regarding those things? So with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next month.